You have this contraption on the desk in front of us. This thing here.
Yeah.
So many people talk to me about this device, and it's quite strange how important people say that this device is and what it tells us. I was doing some reading beforehand. It's a grip strength reader monitor, and there's some really crazy stats that I found. There was a 2015 Lancet study across 17 countries that found for every 5 kilogram decrease in grip strength, it was associated with a 16% high risk of death, a 17% high risk of heart disease, and a 7% high risk of stroke. And a 2018 study in the Journal of Alzheimer's Disease found that people with low grip strength had a 68% high risk of developing Alzheimer's. There was another study that linked it to other cardiovascular and blood issues, and another study that shows that older adults in the lowest third of grip strength were 2.5 times more likely to fall and be hospitalized with their injuries. And one study found that grip strength predicted upper body strength by 70%. And lastly, adults over 65 with weak grip strength were 2.1 times more likely to become dependent in daily activities within 3 years. That was in the Journal of Gerontology. Grip strength.
Pretty important, huh? A lot of that research has been determined to be more correlative than causative, but the fact is that maintaining your grip strength is very important. So what I mean by the correlative causative thing is that what they find is that people that maintain their grip strength throughout life are probably doing so because they're regularly engaging in physical activity. Likely they are lifting weights, they're holding heavy weights, they're having to manipulate their body in space if they're doing calisthenic exercises. So there's a level of activity that remains in their grip that probably keeps their level of strength at a higher level. So you're selecting out people that are just generally maintaining their fitness, in which case they're probably maintaining higher levels of health and lower issues as they age.
So it's not the strength in which we can grip that matters necessarily, but the thing that matters is upstream from that, and downstream is our ability to grip. So it's just it's almost like a symptom of something upstream, which is positive.
Right, or lacking, right?
Or lacking,
you're not doing enough of. That being said, you can actually directly relate or measure your ability to recover from exercise based upon having a baseline understanding of what your grip strength is, and then monitoring what that is over weeks or months of training. So if you were to measure your grip strength with a tool like this in the morning, 5 mornings in a row, and average it out at a time where you feel like you're feeling energetic and good, that will give you a good baseline of what your grip strength is.
What's a good grip strength?
So most men would be somewhere between 100, I'll talk in pounds, 100 to 120 pounds. So if you look at that, that's around 46 kilos to 54 kilos. If you want to give it a shot, see where you stack up. So to do this, now there's some rules here.
Yeah.
Don't go like this, keep it in here. Don't touch your arm to the table at all.
This.
Keep it 90 degrees like
way.
that. Yep. And then you're just going to squeeze, one good effort as hard as you can.
Wish me luck.
All right, don't blow out now. All right, let's see.
Oh, gosh, my head nearly exploded.
130.
Okay.
So you're above average. So doing well on grip strength. So now what you would do is, and you would test both sides. You could average out the sides. Sometimes you're going to have one side stronger than the other. You would then have a good baseline. If you were feeling like you weren't sure if you recovered or not, you would test this in the morning.
Can I try this side as well?
Go ahead. Yeah.
This is my weaker.
All right, here we go.
My weaker hand.
All right. You got to beat it though now.
Oh, gosh, it's a bit slippery.
I think you did.
Did I beat it?
Oh my God. Wow. 160.
You're joking.
160.
What the?
Right 160. So you probably, if you did the other side again, give it another shot. If you did the other side again.
You think I'd beat it?
No, you're not going to beat. You're going to beat your old performance, but you're not going to beat the left side. Are you left-handed?
I'm right-handed, so that was strange.
Okay. All right, let's see what you got. 150 now. See, I had my prediction was right. So a lot of times it takes a little accommodation to the stress of doing that.
What's your grip strength?
I don't know. I haven't tested in a while. See, now you're going to show me.
Left and right.
All right, let's see.
I'm going to ask some of my team members if they want to give it a shot.
All right, here we go.
Wow.
Look. Crunching in there,
Wow.
130
Okay.
on that side.
And your left side?
Let's see.
Anyone else want to do it? Berta, you want to give it a shot?
Try to do it with all the popping, without all the popping. That was my bicep that popped, by the way. 110.
Okay, so you're
And
right.
I'm right-handed.
Okay.
So it was 130, right? 130 versus 110 on this side. So I fall in the range of average, but not superhuman for sure.
Berta, you
Want
want
to try?
Sure. But you're most certainly way stronger than me.
Not in grip strength.
But you're stronger than me at bicep curls,
Okay,
bench press,
but not,
everything else.
Yeah, I mean, this is, again, underscoring why some of these things need to be trained individually.
Right.
Okay.
All right, so now hold it like this.
Mhm.
Yep, and then you're just gonna one hand, right? Just squeeze as hard as you can for kind of a short burst.
Okay.
All right. There you go. Let's take a look. Wow, 100. Now, women's average grip strength is 60 to 80 pounds, so you're actually much stronger than the average woman.
I started my first business at 12 years old, and then I started more businesses at 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18. And at that time, what I didn't realize is that being a founder with no money meant that I also had to be the marketeer, the sales rep, the finance team, customer service, and the recruiter. But if you're starting a business today, thankfully there's a tool that wears all of those hats for you. Our sponsor today, which is Shopify. Because of all of its AI integrations, using Shopify feels a bit like you've hired an entire growth team from day one, taking care of writing product descriptions, your website design, and enhancing your product's images. Not to mention the bits you'd expect Shopify to handle, like the shipping, like the taxes, like the inventory. And if you're looking to get your business started, go to shopify.com/Bartlett and sign up for a $1 per month trial. That's shopify.com/Bartlett. This has never been done before. A newsletter that is ran by 100 of the world's top CEOs. All the time people say to me, they say, can you mentor me? Can you get this person to mentor me? How do I find a mentor? So here is what we're going to do. You're going to send me a question, and the most popular question you send me, I'm going to text it to 100 CEOs, some of which are the top CEOs in the world running $100 billion companies. And then I'm going to reply to you via email with how they answered that question. You might say, how do you hold on to a relationship when you're building a startup? What is the most important thing if I've got an idea and don't know where to start? We email it to the CEOs, they email back, we take the 5-6 top best answers, we email it to you. I was nervous because I thought, the marketing might not match the reality, but then I saw what the founders were replying with and their willingness to reply. And I thought, actually, this is really good. And all you've got to do is sign up, completely free. And can I train my grip strength individually if I wanted to improve it as an individual thing? Would I just have to grip?
Yeah, I mean, they one of the easiest ways to do it is with those old-fashioned little grippers, that you just squeeze. And they make them in some really, really heavy resistance levels now for people that have worked on it and actually improved. When I was young, they're pretty easy to conquer with a little bit of training. You'd be able to squeeze them because they never really made the resistance high enough. But now it's definitely something that you could be challenged by.
The other thing I wanted to talk to you about, which we've touched on briefly, but I think is important to talk about because I don't think people realize how prevalent it is back pain. I was looking at some stats beforehand, and it says that 80% of people will experience back pain at some point in their lives. It's actually the leading cause of disability worldwide. And in the UK, over 10 million work days are lost every year due to back pain. 1 in 6 hospital visits in Britain are related to back pain. It's the most common reason for people under 45 to see a doctor. And chronic back pain, which is sort of just enduring back pain, affects about 1 in 5 adults in the UK. And there's 5 of us in this room now in total. And so one of us probabilistically is going to have chronic back pain. Is this something one can avoid? I asked this in part because I spoke to some, I think the anthropologists who go and look at the tribes in Africa, and they find that back pain just doesn't exist there. It's not a thing.
I think the likelihood that you're going to experience back pain at some point in your life is high, but that recurring back pain and that chronic back pain, I think that's entirely avoidable. 26% of the time, at any one time in the United States, people are going to be dealing with back pain. So kind of with the numbers that you just said there. The other thing I find interesting is that the second leading cause of trips to the doctor in the United States is back pain behind respiratory infection. So if you think about how often, especially this time of year, My own kids have been in at least 4 or 5 times, to the doctor for respiratory infection. It starts to it's an eye opener, like, wow, and this is something that's somewhat preventable. We need to do something about it to prevent it. The problem is that it can come from so many different causes. We talked about before how the limitation in that thoracic mobility could ask the low back to do more than it could, and therefore cause strain there. Now, here's the good part about this. Though 80% of people or 85% will have low back pain in their life, only 27 to 35% of the time is it disc related. So we're talking about, if we look back on this guy again, it's the discs, between the vertebrae, right? The vertebral discs that create that spacing and the cushioning between the vertebrae of our spine. When one of those discs, actually, this is one of them, dislodged itself, but when the disc that sits above and below these two levels pushes outward or herniates, it could push on any one of these nerves that's traveling downward. Anytime you get any touching of this nerve with some other structure, in this case the disc, you get the radiating symptoms that go down whatever dermatome this is. What that means is this nerve will feed some function of the lower body or some sensory area of the lower body. Depending upon where people complain of pain, like, oh, I feel it in my hip, or I feel it in my leg around my knee, or I feel it down behind my knee down to my foot. You pretty much know what level of disc problem they have because it's representative of the level of herniation. When you press on something that is at the level of like L5S1, right, the last lumbar vertebrae and the first sacral vertebrae, it's going to give you symptoms like numbness, tingling down near the back of your calf, underneath your foot. If you get something more around the hip, and a lot of times people complain of hip pain. They think they have a hip issue. It's actually a back issue that's pressing on a nerve that wraps around that area. So that's an L2, L3, or L3, L4. You get indicators of where that's coming from. Again, the good news is if you don't have this neurological deficit in your lower body, this tingling, numbness, weakness, it's mostly muscle in origin. Now, again, even of the disc-related issues, the 27 to 35%, 96% of those are not operated on. So think about the impact you can have if we're saying that pretty much every single instance of low back pain that you have is going to be able to be addressed through non-operative strengthening or stretching intervention. Because a lot of times, as we said, what's the cause of the dysfunction? Is it coming from that thoracic spine lack of extension? Cool. Okay. Well, let's work on it. So let's try to restore that thoracic spine extension. Is it coming from a weak glute, right? Having weak glutes? Because again, the role of the glutes from the bottom up is to extend the hip. In other words, kick the leg back behind you. If I can't get my leg back behind me and I'm trying to basically extend my body by doing that when I step through and get behind me, well, how can I do that? Once again, I could do it from the low back by over exaggerating and stepping in where it's not supposed to. Always remember the low back is supposed to be the stability center of your spine. It's supposed to provide stability. If you're not getting mobility from your hip or from your thoracic spine up and above and below, it's going to ask for it from the next place above it or below it. It's going to say to the low back, please help out. Give me the mobility that I lack. So the low back will do it, but at an expense, and that's where you get injured. So you got to address hip weaknesses. You have to address hip mobility issues.
This strikes me as what they call a mismatch disease or a mismatch issue. When they say mismatch issue, they mean that there's a way that we're living our lives these days that is at odds with how we were, quote unquote, supposed to live or how our ancestors lived. And it's interesting because I've interviewed David Richalin, who is an anthropologist, but also Daniel Lieberman. They've both spent time with the Hadza tribe in West Africa. And the shocking thing for me is I was assuming that the reason why we get back issues and the Hadza tribe don't really get them is because we spend a lot of time like just sedentary. However, David Richalin said that the Hadza tribe still spend 10 hours a day in resting postures, but they maintain a straight J-shaped spine, not the curved S-shaped spine common in the West. They squat, they walk, they carry loads a lot, and they aren't in chairs. They're doing more active motions. Now, I spend a lot of time sat down
Me
whether
too.
it's at a desk doing this or whether
Yeah.
it's in an office. I'm wondering from your experience if you thought it would be better to have a standing desk or if there's
No.
no?
No, I think standing desks are great, and I hate to say it because I might have to hold myself responsible, but I feel like it would be beneficial for me too. I think that too much time sitting, right? There's people that call sitting the new smoking, like the detrimental effects that sitting can have, prolonged sitting can have on your body, especially when you couple it with the fact that when we do go to sleep, 8, 9, 10 hours, like how much time do you want to spend in a sort of fixed immobile position in a day? Like you're working all day. There's a big chunk there, maybe 8 hours, 9 hours, 10 hours with intermittent breaks that you're going to the bathroom and getting some water. And then you got another 8 or 9 hours at night that you're doing the same thing. Like your body wasn't meant to be that immobile. Like I think there's an actual compression. So when your joints are subject to gravity and you're moving through space, you're actually getting a bathing of those joints of the synovial fluid that's in these joints, like let's say your knees, that you're essentially mobilizing because you're compressed, and again with your knee, you're weight bearing, and then you're off of it. You're weight bearing, you're off. It's like squeezing and bathing that joint in the synovial fluid. The outcomes are much better when we don't allow that to become stagnant and when we stimulate that through frequent movement sessions. Being up on your feet at a standing desk is certainly going to take away some of the compression and the load that we're getting from the chair and probably discourage some of that really bad posture that comes from sitting and doing this. Standing and doing that, you're likely going to at least improve your posture from below. You may not improve your posture so much from above, like we talked about, but at least from below, you're going to improve that. But I still think that the inactivity, just standing alone, is not solving for the inactivity. You need to take more frequent breaks. I think people need to um, get up and walk around just a little bit. 5 minutes every 30 minutes or so would be ideal. But like if you're gonna take a phone call, go walk while you're on the phone. Like one thing I do is I have my office and I have the gym. And as soon as I know I'm gonna be on a call, I just stand up and I walk around the gym while I'm on my call, just as an excuse to get up and move. I could easily conduct that phone call from the chair still, but I'm doing the rest of my work from the chair. Anything you can do, I know they're cliche, but park a little further when you're at a store, so you have to walk a little bit more. But I think it's the frequency of the breaks that we're not taking, which is the main problem. I think that even if you added up all the time that you're active in a day and then the time that you're not active, it's if it was the same exact time of an activity, but I interspersed my activity more regularly throughout the day, you'd have less negative side effects than you do if you're just grouping it. I'm going to be inactive from this period. I'm going to be active from this period. Because again, of that effect of intermittently bathing and giving these joints a break and subjecting to that then to different stresses than just compression, compression, compression. It's one of the reasons why I talk all the time about the benefit you can get from just hanging from a bar, right? To decompress your body, even just minimally, again, not that much, one arm hang or so, two arm hangs a day is enough to give your body a bit of a break that you're not getting right now. And nobody does that. Nobody hangs from a bar.
If you love the Diary of a CEO brand and you watch this channel, please do me a huge favor. Become part of the 15% of the viewers on this channel that have hit the subscribe button. It helps us tremendously, and the bigger the channel gets, the bigger the guests.